Next up, our modern command line tools. Final, possibly, version. We'll see. Bye later. Thank you.
So it's me between you and the last talk and the closing session, so I'll try to keep it as short, as entertaining as possible. See if I can do that. Yeah, I thought last year I covered all the interesting command line tools, and thanks to a wonderful bunch of people, especially Karas, I have quite a lot of content again. So this will be similar to last year's talk, if you have seen it, but the content, apart from the jokes, from the bad jokes, is completely different. So hopefully I will not bore you too much. Hashtag, as you know, is BalCCon2k19. I'm Leyrer. You can find me on Twitter or Mastodon. And the slides will be available on my homepage. The link will be at the end of the presentation, so you can just relax and enjoy, more or less enjoy the ride. To cover a few points that I covered in last year's talk as well, but just to repeat them so you know what I'm talking about. I'm doing this because I noticed I'm almost turning 50, that I have a natural aversion to new things. I noticed this quite a few years ago, and apparently the famous science fiction author Douglas Adams also recognized this and phrased this in his wonderful words that anything that is in the world when you're born is normal and ordinary, and is just a natural part of the way the world works. So if you're one of the younger persons in the audience, cell phones, internet, that's all completely natural to us. For me, it was a big thing. So anything that's been invented when you're between 15 and 35 is new and exciting, and it's revolutionary, and you can probably make a career out of it. So it's like the internet or computers or IT security, something like that. But, and that's the downside, anything invented after you turn 35 is against the natural order of things. So if you haven't turned 35 yet, wait for it. This feeling will come. So that's our typical reaction to technologies, and I thought I will conquer this problem. I will work on myself to take a look at new tools, and that's how this talk series came into existence. So what I'm talking about Unix command line tools. So these are tools that are standalone tools that do not need a server, that do not need a Node.js installation like an NVIDIA driver, a video card driver, or anything else. So all these tools follow the Unix philosophy, first introduced by Doug McElroy in 1978, which basically said, make each program do one thing well, do a new job but build afresh rather than complicate old programs. Expect the output of every program to become the input of another, as yet unknown program. Do not clutter output. There are excellent talks on the development of the Unix tools and command line tools, and how they cleaned up all the clutter of the different tools they wrote back then. Do not use binary input formats, and do not insist on interactive input. And also, design and build software. If it doesn't work, throw it away. If it doesn't work well, try it in another way. And try to automate as much as possible if you can. Oh, I got my speaker notes now. Perfect. So in 1994, Peter Salos rephrased this again: write programs that do one thing well, write programs that work together, and write programs to handle text streams. We will find this quite often. Of course, as you all know, there's this one new piece of software that completely follows all these rules and is lightweight, small, simple, text-based, and does one thing well. Well, not really, but we have to live with systemd. So, if you haven't seen my talk, these are the tools I talked about last year. Tmux and Zshell I want to point out once more because they're really awesome. If you do not like Zshell, try Fish or another more modern shell. RipGrab for text searches, Progress. Kyrillis gave me a shout out this year, thanks for that. The recording is online in English and in German. In English from this wonderful conference here, and in German from a few events in the CCC area. So you will find it if you want to have a look at that. The slides are also from last year also online on my homepage. So this year I'm going to talk about these few tools. They came out of input from other users through Twitter, Mastodon, and also through a few projects I had on my table last year. You will probably recognize what I spent my time on last summer. So without further ado, modern command line tools, the final last version. Hopefully I will not do another version next year. So please put in talks for next year's BalCCon so I can move on to other things. First tool, Hub. Hub is a wrapper for Git. It embraces and expands Git's functionality. It allows you to do a fork, to do pull requests, create a repo, clone a repo. It has tab completion, and it's quite easy and handy to use. Came out of my necessity. Why do I have to clone a project through the web interface when I'm on the command line? There's no need to do that. So I found Hub. Let's see. And with Hub, I can create a new repo. Let's call it BalCCon 2019 demo repository. And it, oh, I forgot to delete it first. Sorry for that. Create it, copy it. You do the usual first commit. And usually you could push it. What you could also do, as I already have it, you can create an issue. So you can create an issue from the command line stating, yeah, I got an error 451 in that thingy. And of course, I forgot the closing quote. So let's try this. And now I can do a Hub issue. And it will show me all the issues I have. And with a Hub issue, show to. It will show me the complete issue that I have without me having to go into the web interface. Yes, sir. On both sides? Oh, that's. I'm sorry for that. Let me see if I can fix this. So. No, that's the wrong side. Thanks for pointing that out. I'll try to get this. Go away, snappy thing. Let's see, is it? Better now? I'll keep it like that. I think that should be. Yep. Yep. Yeah, that one, you have to give the projector a whack. It's out of line. Good. So, thanks for submitting that issue. Where is my mouse? Because without a mouse, I can't continue. Right. So, and of course, what I should have done is also delete that repo on the thing for which, for some obscure reason, I do not have admin rights. So the demo gods are not with me this time, which will be interesting. And of course, what should work is that I can yeah. What I can do is clone a wrapper from the source through the command line. So that's rather nice and easy. The same thing is of course available for GitLab, surprisingly called Lab. It's a wrapper for GitLab and also GitHub. Does basically the same thing as Hub. While we're on the topic of Git, there is also Tick, which is an ncurses-based text mode interface for Git. You can browse changes, you can search for, you can do a blame for changes, and generally do a few nice things with it. So you get a nice list of all the changes you did in the project. If you click on one, you get additional information. You can go into diff mode. You can go into grep mode where you can search for stuff. And basically do all the main stuff with a nice command line interface without going through the big UI. Right. Okay. LINS, while we are on the topic of security and system auditing, it's a console-based auditing system having a compliance testing tool, which basically scans your system and gives you recommendations on how you could improve the security and stability of your system. It's rather modular, and you can write additional modules for it or customize it to your needs. It looks like this, the output. So it gets you. You should have a grub bootloader with a password and other stuff. So that's what Linux does. Nice tool. It needs a little bit of time to run, and but then the output is quite useful. It also outputs HTML files, so you can print it and give it to a manager if you want to do that. So what did I spend my last summer on? Basically, I had to find out why certain things were not working as expected, so I spent some time with a lot of command line tools, like top lists the current running processes. It's the default install on the most Linux systems, so it's pretty much everywhere, and it's quite useful. You can sort the output through different ways and generally get an info on the system. There, of course, are better versions. So there's, for example, ATOP, which is also an ASCII full screen performance monitor. Can even show you the network activity, and also does permanent logging of resource utilization. So you can just let it run in the background, for example, in a TMAX session, as I like to point out, and have a log of your performance input over a certain amount of time to see how the system behaves. Again, no surprises, looks very similar to what we are known from top. Then there is, of course, HTOP. It's an interactive process monitor. It's been actively developed since 2004. Yes, there's still progress. It was one of the first top programs to have a tree view. And it basically looks like, looks like this. With F2, you get into the system, and you can then check, I want additional memory info here. I want a swap bar and a memory bar, move them around. You can play around with the colors, with the display options. It's quite a lot of things to do. So if you want a nice thing to run in the background or on a monitor, then HTOP is quite a nice tool. Of course, we are not only interested in system values like disk performance or CPU performance and memory. There are also, most of the time, there are applications running on our servers. So there are quite a few application-specific tools. One of them, of course, is Apache Top, which, surprisingly, monitors multiple Apache log files, gives you an indication of overall performance and how your threads are behaving or not behaving. So again, rather straightforward command line interface for Apache Top. Okay, Apache Top is, of course, something for an old fart like me. I started off with Apache 1. The cool kids on the block, of course, use Nginx. Therefore, of course, there's an Nginx Top giving you real-time metrics for your Nginx server. And surprisingly, again, it looks quite nice, actually, to be honest. You notice it's a little bit more modern than the other. So we talked about one end of the multiple tier architecture we usually encounter in system administration. So let's look at the other one. The other one usually is at the database. Of course, there is a MyTop for MySQL or Maria databases. Runs on most Unix systems. You need Perl and a few Perl modules for that. but it gets you even color, and it will show you the most interesting thing you want to know about your MySQL server. Even the query times and stuff like that. Of course, if I want to use a proper database, there's of course pgtop for Postgres, does similar things, uses the currently running SQL statements, and you can also kill and renice threads, Postgres threads. So if something is hanging or taking too long, you can just give it a kick and let it go away. You've all been to BalCCon. We all noticed that the power outlet situation in the rooms is rather not satisfactory. So managing the power in your system is quite important. So there's of course PowerTop, which will help you with the power consumption and power management of your system, usually a laptop. This was written by Intel, so this is basically for Intel-based systems. Again, nope. PowerTop. Why? Ah, there it is. It gives you an overview of your system, idle stats. So how much time does the CPU is in each of the C levels? So how much power are we going to save? The higher the C level, the more power you save. So a CPU that is most of the time in level C7 is a good thing because it saves a lot of power. Of course, you can see the gigahertz going up and down depending on the load on the system. Device stats on backlight and audio interfaces. And the really interesting stuff is the what you can't see due to the screen are the recommendations. So this this tool can actually will check all the systems and will tell you, okay, for example, the audio codec power management is currently not enabled, so you maybe want to enable this, and it will show you the command that needs to be done to change the power setting. Unfortunately, these settings are not permanent, so you have to write your systemd or whatever tool to set this after each reboot, but then you will save probably a lot of power. So that's PowerTop. IOTop, current I/O usage by process or thread, of course, gives you disk reads, disk writes for each of the processes you have. You can start it with IOTop minus only, then it will only show you processes that actually do any reads and writes and will not clutter your screen with the whole output of this. If top does for network usage what top does for CPU usage, shows you nice information on the network. If this works, because it didn't, yes, it works now. You get a nice view on the data that's running in and out of your system to each target. And you can switch, if I remember the, where is it? If top, there it is. The with the toggle, you can toggle between the views. So you get one line per host, receive traffic only, send traffic only, or 2 lines per host where you can see send and receive traffic. I think it's a very nice tool, very convenient, very nice. Yeah, that's a screenshot of it. If you're in the situation that something on your machine, on your laptop, on your computer is hogging all the bandwidth and you're not sure what it is, there's NetHogs for you, which groups bandwidth by process and will show you, surprisingly, Thunderbird is taking up all the download bandwidth. That's not good in that case. Then I touched on this in the last year's presentation as well. We have to say goodbye to a few tools. So NetStat is another one of these. This will get replaced in all of the major distributions by socket statistics, SS, as part of the IPR2 package. And it will show you stats on the packet sockets, TCP sockets, raw sockets, unique domain sockets, and all the other things. It can display TCP and state information, and it's a lot faster than the old NetStat tool. I mean, we can take a look at it. It will show you, for example, the TCP sockets we currently have on the system. It's of course, if you compare it to netstat, if you're into shell golf, so if you're always trying to find the shortest way to achieve a result, SS is of course a lot shorter than netstat, so you will gain some benefits in the office shell golf tournament as well. If you want to know the processes to the different ports, you can do a netstat-p. Again, I apologize for the rendering. That's usually if I turn down, if I make the font smaller, you can't read anything at all. So it's always a little bit of a trade-off between those two. If you need additional information, there's dstat, which allows you to view your system resources in a compact way. Again, this is basically running all the time, and every time the screen is filled, it will print the header again, and you can configure this through command line options if you want to see the CPU, latency, read-writes, memory, disk activity, etc. Also a rather nice tool to have running on a screen and see what happens or does not happen on your system. There's SIDAR, which is a system statistics overview. I just included it for completeness sake. I don't think it's very nice to look at. There's Discuss, which is basically colorized disk space usage. It could replace DF. Gives you a nice view on where your data actually goes. The thing that I used for most of the time is Nmon. It monitors anything, basically anything you want to know. And it has a nice data analysis option, so you can run this on several machines, because most of the applications nowadays are distributed over several machines, several virtual machines, several Docker images, whatever. And then you have the option to combine all of these log files and get one coherent overview over all the activity that has happened on all the machines. And for the managers, there's an Excel file that actually does that. So you can get nice graphs, and there's also the option to create an HTML output. So with Nmon, you can say, okay, I want to see CPU statistics. If you're not into CPU, you can take it away and say, I only want to know about memory and swap information. Or maybe I do not want memory, but I want disk and network information. And all of this can then be written out to the system and be collected together. And you get a nice graph in an HTML file, as well as a system summary in Excel where you can send around to management. I already covered, I already mentioned Docker, and so kubetail. It's basically a bash script to tail Kubernetes logs from multiple pods at the same time. If you're using a Z-Shell plugin manager, you can install this as a Z-Shell plugin. If you don't know what I'm talking about, watch my last year's talk. And it basically gives you a nice, colorful output of the log files of the different containers. While we are on the topic of colors, it's always nice to have log files colored in different colors. So for example, warnings in yellow, errors in red, everything that's okay in black on black so you don't see it. There's ColorX, which basically takes anything and colors it according to a regex, so you can write your own regex to make things colorful, which will end up in something like this. That's overboarding. If you have something like this, you're using way too much colors. If you're really into colors, I mean, if you're really into colors, there's of course lolcat with rainbows and unicorns. And I would ask you, if you have problems with flickering colors or something, look away for a second, because that's what's rainbow. What's lolcat does. It basically colors your log files in the colors of the rainbow. It's very beautiful, but not very useful. But I like it. No, this gives you a nice, or if you got a proper output, gives you a nice flow. So, after all these system logging, etc., there's of course a lot of other tools around that help you with developing this newfangled modern web stuff. So I already talked about HTTP PI last time. This time I want to show you HTTP Prompt, which is an interactive HTTP client with auto-completion, syntax highlighting based on HTTP PI, and really nice features like cookie-based authentication, so every cookie you get will automatically send in the next request. You got pipelines, so you can put it together with other cool tools like JQ I showed last time. And it also has an open API Swagger integration, so you can do a lot of JavaScript stuff. If you can't imagine what it looks like, it's rather straightforward. You start it with a URL. You do a CD post. No, CD post, I said. And then I can do authenticate, and as you can see, it will show you already type ahead. I can say, yes, I want authentication, thank you. And as you can see, it will also do auto-completion. So if you have entered something already before, it will show, it will add that as well. And if you do this all in the right order, so we got the authorization. So we are sending JSON, the data, no, come on, the data is this. And then you can say, okay, what would this look like in HTTP PI? Let's do it this way. HTTP PI post. So what would the post request in HTTP PI look like for all this data? That would be that. You can copy that. Or you can just say post this. And it will post the data and will output the returning data in a nice, colorful and paginated way. And if you're, for example, only interested in the username response, grep username, then you can, of course, pipe it through grep or another tool and get only the part with the username. So very nice tool, very handy if you're into the HTTP development thingy. Last year, I presented JQ, which was basically Swiss Army knife for JSON data. Of course, there is something for the enterprise JSON community. There's XML Starlet. So XML Starlet lets you transform, query, validate, basically mangle XML in any way you want from the command line. It does everything you would expect it to do. And for example, you can say XML Starlet ls, and it will give you the current directory as an XML file. Okay. We can argue about the usability and the usefulness of that, but then you can, of course, write xlst to say, okay, I want the directory listing without attributes, without the A and M, without the access without the attributes, and then you can get this. But of course, this is not limited to the XML output of a directory, which is just a nice tool to show what it can do. You can actually grab the schedule of BalCCon as an XML file, and then, for example, search, transform all the conference titles out of it and do something else with it. So that's a nice tool if you have to work with XML from the command line. My favorite this year is Ultimate Plumber. If you're working with command line tools like grep and awk and stuff like that, or word count and paste, it's always trial and error. So you concatenate several tools together through the pipe command, and then you hope that it works. And if it doesn't work, you have to edit again and then run it again, and it's a cycle. With Ultimate Plumber or UP, it's a lot easier. So which network cards do I have in my laptop, for example? So I get a list of all the hardware in my laptop, and now I want to find the network, the network card. So I can do a grep net. Okay, well, let's do a grep network. I need more output, so give me the first 5 lines of each match of grep. Okay, that's a lot better, but I actually only need the first 2 lines. Thank you, that's even better. Then I would grab for the colon, which gets me a lot further. And now I can cut this up to get a nice output. Minus D on a colon and minus F. I want the second one. And put that paste minus minus with a blank in between. And I get a nice output of my network card. This is, of course, just an example, but this is a really useful tool to interactively put together a long Unix command like it should be and like you want to do it. Right. So that's the plumber. Ooh, I'm fast this time. Sorry for that. Then we have Reptier. Reptier. Hello, computer. Thank you. It re-PTYs programs. If you're asking yourself, what do I mean by that? Imagine you have an SSH session to one of your servers, and on that server you started a download for a wget or curl download that runs for a very long time, and you forgot to use tmux, as I explained last time, on the server. So if you close down the SSH session, the download will stop, of course. So what you want to do is open another window, start a tmux session in there, and then somehow transfer that download over to that other session. And that's exactly what re-PTR is for. Let me show. It's always easier to show. So I do have in one window my wget, which I start and which will run. Oh, it's actually quite fast. I'm surprised. So this is running in this window, and of course, in another window on the same machine, if I take a look at it, there's my process. Go back, still running. Now I can do a re-PTYR and use the process ID of my wget. And now my wget runs in this window, and if I switch back to the other one, it's gone. I can close this session and move on to better things. So that's what re-PTR does. Rather handy if you forget to start a tmux or if you must a screen session, and reparent progress applications. Yeah. What I'm not showing live is TTYD, which allows you to share your terminal over the web. So it's basically a command line tool to webify your terminal window. I only have a screenshot for reasons, which is here. So in the bottom you will see I started TTYD on port 8081, and I started a set shell in there. And on the top you will see that I connected to the machine, in this case localhost, but of course this will work over any network as long as it's TCP. And in that session I started htop as a demonstration tool. You have an interactive shell in there, you can type, you can start commands, everything. But you don't have any authentication. So as this is a machine I'm trying to use several times, I'm not opening this up here. Just then there's WTF, which is a personal information dashboard. So if you're a PIM freak that wants to see a lot of information at the same time, this is completely configurable. You can integrate that with a lot of development tools, Google Calendar and stuff like that. So if you want to build your own dashboard on the console, WTF will have you covered. And we are almost finished. Last tool, in the case that the local TV studio comes by and you need something visual and you need some B-roll or whatever, there's this No More Secrets tool, which is really nice, and if you're into old hacker movies, you will recognize this. So what it does, let me just stop the download here. You can pipe something to it, for example. So if I do an ls and pipe it through No More Secrets, it will encrypt the data, and if you press a button, it will, in a very nice visual way, decrypt the data so you can actually see this. So if a TV crew is looking for for visual effects, that's what you want to do. Who remembers which movie that is? Shout it out. Sneakers, exactly. Awesome movie. I do love it. There's also the, I think there's also the original animation in there. So, yeah, but I can't find it now. So that's basically it. That's my website. The slides will be there probably today or tomorrow. If you have any additional tips, tools, please do not send them to me on Twitter, because then I will have to do another talk next year. No, if you have a cool tool, send it to me. I'm always interested in seeing more stuff. If you found one tool that might be of interest to you in this talk, I'm happy. If you feel entertained, I'm even more happy. And otherwise, I'll say thank you. And if you have any questions, I'm open for questions. Thanks. And it was really, really fast. I'm sorry for that.
So, number one, thank you for Ultimate Plumber. That looks amazing. So, one thing I'd like to add is the TTYD, or what's it called? It's a bit more work, but you can use either a VPS or have your ports forwarded. Do a reverse port forward on your SSH session, open tmux, and anybody can join on your session interactively. It's useful and more secure since you can do SSH authentication.
Yeah.
So questions?
Comments? Additional tools?
That he won't review.
What I'm looking for, if you have any idea on how to mirror, I do have a setup to mirror text sessions, also console sessions with tmux, through tmux, so I can type here, look at my screen, and have a second screen on the beam, on the projector. I'm looking for something similar for GUI-based programs, like a browser. So I can have two browsers showing the same session, and if I click in one browser, the other shows the same action. So if you know of something like that, I would be really, really interested in. Otherwise, I'll take any comments, positive, negative. And if not, we can say you have a few minutes for drinks.
Hey, thanks for the talk. And if anyone is working with Docker, there is a lazy Docker tool that helps you a lot with showing logs for all the containers on the server or local machine or whatever.
And so maybe they should change the name. Lazy and Docker is redundant. So
also dive to get the image in layers and see what the changes are. It's really helpful for debugging issues with the build.
Yeah, as I said before, I'm an old guy. If you know this newfangled stuff, please do it. Talk about it. I would love to see it. Seriously. Right. Well, if there are no more questions, I'm here till tomorrow morning, early morning. So if you have any questions, comments, or whatever, just grab me. Please do not give me rakia. And once again, thank you very much and have a nice BalCCon.